Bon après-midi tout le monde. It's good to be in London for this important historic occasion, filled with reflections and solemnity, but also remarkable moments of unity and even a sort of joy. It is great to be here with a group of extraordinary Canadians. The delegation is composed of past Prime Ministers, former Governors General, artists, military, people who've served their country in extraordinary ways and represent all of Canada as we gather. Hier, j'ai été là pour rencontrer Sa Majesté le Roi Charles III pour une première audience, pour parler des enjeux auxquels les Canadiens font face et parler du travail que nous avons à faire dans les années à venir pour bien refléter le service de Sa Majesté la Reine. I also attended the lying in state at Westminster Hall, which was an extraordinary moment to see and pay respects to Her late Majesty, but also to watch the crowds of Londoners and people from all across the UK and around the world gather to pay their final respects and express their deep gratitude towards someone who has served this country and this world extraordinarily. Tomorrow I will be attending the funeral and the committal service at Windsor Castle, an opportunity to gather with leaders from around the world to note the remarkable service of Queen Elizabeth II. But as always, I'll talk about the values that guided her and us all as we move forward into the future. C'est un moment où les Canadiens sont en train évidemment de réfléchir au passé, mais penser aussi à l'avenir, aux défis auxquels nous faisons face dans le monde et cette solidarité et cette force et compassion qu'ont toujours caractérisé Sa Majesté la Reine, qui devrait nous inspirer tous à être de notre meilleur au service de nos concitoyens. Je suis content de prendre vos questions.
Thank you, and I'll take 15 minutes of question. On va commencer avec les questions.
Richard Latendresse de TVA. Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre. J'aimerais ça que vous nous donniez davantage de détails de votre rencontre avec le roi Charles. Est-ce que vous vous connaissiez déjà bien? Quel sujet avez-vous abordé? Est-ce qu'il semblait bien connaître la réalité canadienne?
Moi, ça fait très longtemps que je connais Sa Majesté le Roi. Je l'ai rencontré pour la première fois quand j'avais autour de 11 ans. Quand il était venu à Ottawa en visite officielle, donc on se connaît depuis longtemps, mais réellement depuis 2015 que je suis Premier ministre, on a eu des rencontres quasiment à toutes les années pour parler d'enjeux qui nous importaient à tous les deux, que ce soit le bien-être de la planète, que ce soit des enjeux au niveau de la réconciliation avec les peuples autochtones. Je peux souligner que lors de sa visite au mois de mai au Canada, ça a été une grande priorité pour lui d'écouter, de comprendre les défis et surtout le travail qu'on est en train de faire sur la réconciliation. Évidemment, dans nos conversations, je continue de partager mes priorités, les priorités des Canadiens et on s'est assuré de continuer ces communications et de se revoir bientôt au Canada, je l'espère.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Travis Stanrush, CBC News. Former Governor General Michael John recently said that Canadians had a very special relationship with Queen Elizabeth II, but she also said that it now may be a time to reflect on our connection with the monarchy. Do you think now is a time to revisit our connection with the monarchy?
I think certainly this is a moment for reflection on 70 years of extraordinary service to Canada and to the Commonwealth by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and reflect on the work we have to do going forward as a world to bring people together, to make sure that the values that underpin our free, stable, democratic societies continue to resonate strongly in all corners of the world. Canadians are extraordinarily lucky to have one of the most stable systems of government anywhere in the world. Obviously, there are always moments for reflection, but I know that what Canadians expect me to focus on is the economy, cost of living, the inflation challenges, the housing crisis, the need to step up in the fight against climate change and create good jobs into the future, continue work on reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. These are the things that Canadians have told me are their priorities. These are the things I will continue to focus on.
Next question.
Hi, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. You've spoken a lot about your affection for the Queen. You've described her as one of your favorite people. I was wondering if there's a particular memory or a particular moment that stands out to you that illustrates the kind of relationship you have.
Every time I got to meet with Her Majesty, her generosity and her gracefulness made that moment the most important moment ever. She had a way of reaching out and connecting with whoever she met with, and actually connecting with crowds and people who only saw her on television. The ability she had to reassure and inspire and ground anyone she interacted with is something that was always remarkable. No matter how many times I'd seen her, no matter how long I got to see her for at any given moment, her ability to focus entirely on you, on the person she was talking to, and make it an extraordinarily memorable moment was unparalleled.
Next question.
It's Jonathan at Valley Rao with CTV National News. I wonder if you could comment on these mass graves that have been found in Ukraine, evidence of torture. And is that something you'll be discussing with the British Prime Minister while here? And could you answer that in both English and French?
I was pleased to have a sit-down meeting with Prime Minister Truss just a few hours ago. And the situation in Ukraine was at the top of our list of things to talk about. Obviously, the UK and Canada have been two of the strongest countries in standing up in support of Ukraine and pushing back against Russia's illegal actions, which increasingly, clearly include war crimes, include absolutely unacceptable crimes, whether we think of what we found in Bucha or the discovery of mass graves in the reclaimed territories by Ukraine. There needs to be full accountability of Russia. There needs to be a proper investigation and transparency, and Vladimir Putin, his supporters, and the Russian military need to be held to account for the atrocities they have and are continuing to commit in Ukraine. J'ai eu une rencontre il y a quelques heures avec la première ministre Truss, et une des premières choses dont on a discuté, c'est la force et le leadership du Canada et du Royaume-Uni ensemble sur la question de l'Ukraine. Nous avions été et nous continuons d'être parmi les pays les plus fermement en appui à l'Ukraine et opposés évidemment aux actions illégales et immorales de la Russie. Et ça inclut évidemment les actes de guerre qu'on a vus à Bucha, comme on est en train de découvrir maintenant avec les avancées ukrainiennes. La Russie, et plus spécifiquement Vladimir Poutine et ceux qui l'appuient, vont devoir être tenus responsables des actions horrifiques qui se sont passées en Ukraine.
Next question.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. I'm wondering if you can share more about your bilat with Prime Minister Truss this morning about forging a relationship with the new Prime Minister, and specifically if there's any updates you can provide about the UK-Canada trade deal, as we haven't heard in a while.
Like I said, I had an excellent meeting with Prime Minister Truss earlier today. Started obviously with sympathies and condolences for all of our loss. Also talked initially about how strongly Canada and the UK have been standing on Ukraine and on holding Vladimir Putin to account. But we also got into a large range of other issues, as befits such close friends and allies as Canada and the UK. We talked a fair bit about trade, about the Canada-UK trade agreement that is continuing in its negotiations to find a permanent bilateral trade deal that is advancing well. We also talked about the interest in the UK joining the CPTPP, which is something we very much support and look forward to as UK extends its trade deals around the world. We talked about inflation and the challenges facing the economy. We talked about the responsibilities we have towards the global south as we see the impacts of Russia's war in Ukraine on food prices, on energy prices. These are things that the world needs to step up on, and we committed ourselves to continue to work together as the closest of allies and friends in Canada and the UK. It was a great pleasure to be able to sit down with Prime Minister Truss.
Madeleine Blémorin, Radio-Canada. L'Organisation mondiale de la santé a déclaré cette semaine que la fin de la pandémie était à portée de main. Est-ce que vous considérez mettre fin aux mesures sanitaires à la frontière? Si oui, lesquelles spécifiquement et quand, en anglais et en français?
À chaque étape de cette pandémie, nous avons pris les décisions basées sur la science, basées sur les recommandations des experts au Canada et à travers le monde. Nous allons continuer de prendre les décisions qui sont dans l'intérêt de garder les Canadiens en santé, en sécurité. C'est toujours notre première priorité, mais aussi de pouvoir permettre un retour à la vie la plus normale possible, le plus rapidement possible. Les décisions vont continuer d'être regardés dans les jours, les mois à venir, comme quoi nous allons prendre les décisions nécessaires selon la situation. Mais la science, les faits, les recommandations des experts vont toujours figurer dans nos choix de décision et on va vous partager des décisions quand ce sera le moment d'en prendre, de les annoncer. Every step of the way through this pandemic, we've been guided by evidence, by facts, by the best counsel of experts, international and across Canada, with the overarching priority of keeping Canadians safe, healthy, and making sure we're caring for the Canadian economy and everyone's general well-being. As we look at the situation evolving, we will continue to make decisions that align with that, and when we have things to announce, we will announce them.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Marika Welsh with the Globe and Mail. A CSIS operative, Mohammed Al-Rashed, has trafficked British girls to Syria. He told Turkish authorities that he was promised asylum in Canada once he had spied for CSIS. Can you please confirm if he was relocated to Canada?
I think it's important for everyone to remember that in 2015, when we took office, we significantly strengthened the rules, the directives, the guidelines under which CSIS functions. We also brought in unprecedented oversight over national security operations, including CSIS, to ensure that Canadian rules, Canadian laws are always followed, and those measures are in place. But as you know, I cannot comment on CSIS operational matters.
What do those rules mean? Would Canada allow somebody who trafficked girls to come to Canada?
In 2015, we made a commitment to Canadians that we would both strengthen the rules around CSIS operations, around national security operations, and bring in stronger oversight. That makes sure, and we are ensuring that CSIS is always following those rules. Canadians need to have confidence that even as we do what is necessary to protect national security, we are abiding by Canadian rules and principles.
Next question.
Abigail Beeman again. Can you share anything ahead of your bilat with the Ukrainian Prime Minister tonight? Will Canada be offering further supports to Ukraine?
I'm very much looking forward to sitting down with Prime Minister Shmyhal of Ukraine tonight. I actually spoke with President Zelensky just a few days ago, and my message, as always, is consistent on Ukraine. We will be there to help. Canada is steadfast in its support of Ukraine, and that means continuing to send more financial aid, more humanitarian aid, more military aid, more sanctions, as they continue the heroic work of defending not just Ukraine, but the principles of all of our democracies. And Canada will also continue to help alongside close allies like the UK on ensuring that democratic countries remain firm in their support for Ukraine. I know we're all facing difficult times right now with rising food prices, rising gas prices, but we need to understand that we are standing up for our democracies in a way that is pivotal and will determine what the coming years bring in terms of well-being and opportunities for Canadians and people all around the world.
Prochaine question.
Richard Latendresse, TVA, encore une fois. Monsieur le Premier ministre, partout au Canada, demain, on va rendre hommage à la reine, sauf au Québec. Est-ce que c'est un manque de respect, d'après vous?
Je pense que tous les Canadiens vont avoir les réflexions qui sont appropriées sur la reine. Je suis fier québécois, je suis très fier d'être ici pour représenter tout le Canada. Les différents gouvernements ont pris leurs propres décisions pour marquer l'occasion, mais pour moi, je pense que de reconnaître que depuis 70 ans, on avait une reine qui s'intéressait profondément au Canada, était venue au Canada plus souvent que dans n'importe quel autre pays du monde, et qui a servi tous les Canadiens avec honneur et grâce.
On va prendre une dernière question.
Il y a à peu près le quart des invités à l'abbaye de Westminster demain qui sont des étrangers, des invités étrangers. Qu'est-ce que ça dit sur le rôle que la reine a joué sur la scène mondiale? Et est-ce que son départ, son décès fragilise le monde ou non?
Je pense que, évidemment, pendant 70 ans, la reine a eu un impact profond, pas juste dans les pays du Commonwealth, mais à travers le monde. Sa sagesse, sa grâce, son leadership à bien des niveaux, que ce soit au niveau moral, que ce soit au niveau de l'exemple, de service et de dévouement profond, ont été très importants et ont marqué notre ère. Dans les 70 ans depuis qu'elle est venue au pouvoir, le monde s'est transformé de façon extraordinaire. Et de pouvoir la remercier pour son service et réfléchir à tout ce chemin qu'on a parcouru ensemble pendant 70 ans, c'est extrêmement important. Mais une des choses que la monarchie nous donne, c'est la continuité. Et ça fait très longtemps que les gens d'à travers le monde connaissent celui qui est maintenant notre roi Charles III. On le connaît pour son engagement envers la planète, son intérêt et son sens profond du service. Et je sais qu'on va être très bien servi d'avoir quelqu'un qui sera là pour continuer cette belle tradition de service de la monarchie britannique.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Bonne soirée.